These are concepts for organizing and managing the small business with Livayo. And we're looking at the Livayo hope and trust. So this is a very sensitive topic. Every worker wants to be trusted, and every owner or manager wants to trust. But there's a gap, and we're suggesting that you can fill that gap in such a way that it actually creates a happier and more productive worker and a happier owner and manager. Let me walk you through the Livayo Trust Level 8. So you hire a new employee. Perhaps it's someone to cover the front counter at your retail store. And they come on board and you say, I trust that you will give good customer service. Or you might even assume that and not say that explicitly because you don't want them to feel bad, like somehow you think that they don't understand or they don't have that same feeling. So then you come to work a couple of days later and you look around and things aren't quite what you thought they would be. And so you say, listen, I trust you will give good customer service by my trusting you that you know what that means. And of course, there's a little conversation and they describe what they think that means and you do. And, people feel good and you move on. Then you come back a couple of days later and things don't look quite what you thought they would look like. And you say, well, what I mean by that, but, by how things look. And then they say, oh, me too. I'll make sure things look good. And then you come back a couple of days later and you look around and you see the situation not quite looking like you thought it would. And you say, well, what I meant by that was, how the front door looks. And they go, oh yeah, I think the front door should look good too. And you stop talking and you move on. And a couple of days later, you come back and say, well, let me tell you what I meant by that. By keeping the front door clean. So I want you to keep the front door clean. And at this point, now this concept of being a micromanager starts to come into play. So they agree with you, and you come back to a couple of days later, and you go, well, so I noticed that you had the front door clean in the morning, but by in the afternoon, it was all smudgy again, And so what I meant was by keeping the front door clean throughout the day. And they say, well, would you rather have me cleaning the front door or serving customers at the counter? And the answer is both. Yeah. So I need you to keep the front door clean throughout the day. A couple of days later, you come back and you notice that it's not, and you say, well, let me describe what that means. Here's what I want you to do. In the morning, I want you to, at 8, when you get here, I want you to clean the front door. And then at noon, I want you to clean it as well, because, when the noon sun kind of comes around, it kind of shines through. So I want you to do 8 and noon. Is that okay? And by this time, they're going home and saying, oh my goodness, I work for this micromanager. They're going to pick apart everything I do. And then you come back, and what you notice is okay, it's there, but the problem is they didn't quite look at it because at noon when the sun comes through, it kind of shows these streaks and stuff. So let me show you. I want you to keep it clean at 8 and noon, and I want you to do it like this. And at this point, this person will turn and say, don't you trust me to know these things, And, well, yeah, I do. And now you have this whole bad setup for the reputation of being a micromanager and someone being micromanaged. So then you finally say, I tell you what, so I don't worry about it. Let's do this. Would you keep the front door clean at 8 and noon like this? And then I want you to mark on this software right here, this little application. I want you to mark that you did that each day. So mark done. And that way I won't have to worry about it. So I can see that, there's one for 8 and there's one for noon, and I can be doing my job and I see that got checked off. And so I'm good to go. And at this point they're saying, sure, I can do that. You're treating me like a child. I can't believe this. This is crazy. So here's what we're suggesting. If the very first day that employee came on board, when they're ready to find out what's expected of them and what is meant by good performance and what the boss wants and what the manager wants to have happen and how they want things done, they're super teachable and they're ready to learn and listen. We're suggesting this. If the very first day that employee came on board and the manager is out front saying, I want you to cover the front counter and deal with customers and do this and this and this and check them out and show them the goods and this. And they say on this also something is to keep the front area clean, and especially the front door. And so we have this little application right here, and it says right here to keep the front door clean at 8 and noon. And it says right here, you can see in the sequence, it says, do it using the cleaner that's under the counter, and make sure that you use the soft cloth because it makes the streaks go away. And then we want you to mark this done at 8 and 12. You know what that employee will say? They'll go home and say, I can't believe it. I've gone to work at a place the first time ever when I've gone to work, and day one, I knew exactly what to do. I knew exactly what they wanted. I even knew how they wanted it done, and I know how to please my boss the very first day. Now, we're suggesting that if you then do that, and then you also walk up and ask them, that's being a micromanager, because you've already laid out a sufficient level of process to trust. And then, of course, the worst is if they say, I want you to do it like this, and I'm going to stand here and watch you. Now, that's being a micromanager. We're suggesting that you can trust at level 8, which means to spell out what you mean, be very specific. You say, I want you to do this. This is what I mean. And I want you to do it like this. So that's why in Livayo, with every task, we have a task note that lets you put in what you mean, and then a sequence for the recipe of, oh, do it like this. So you can say, do this is what I mean, and do it like this. Here's what will happen if you were to lay out the work that you want done by people, even higher level roles. You will end up with more productive staff faster, and you'll have more happy employees and owners and managers. And here's the best part. It'll be easier to replace people. Now, people who work in businesses that run on Livayo are just naturally happier and more productive anyway. And so people won't want to leave your business. But if by chance they do, and you need to replace them, the next day when someone comes on board, because this is laid out like this, they can be as productive and happy day one. So that is the Livayo Trust Level 8 and our hope in trust.